this video, we're going to look at the 2025 recruiting class and the recruits that are left. This will include taking a look at Aaliyah Chavez and how LSU reportedly has rescinded their offer to her as they felt she was asking too much in NIL. But before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. Okay, let's get into this. Now, last week, another top 15 player came off the 2025 board as Emily Skinner has committed to Duke. She is rated number 7 in the 2025 class. She's a big 6-foot guard who can slash and get to the basket as well. She can shoot from outside. She picked Duke over Notre Dame, TCU, UCLA, and Iowa, saying, "I chose Duke because I like what Kara is building." And she is right. It does seem like Kara Lawson is building well. Since arriving at Duke in 2020, they've got the 11th ranked class in 2022, the number 6 class in 2023, and the 7th ranked class in 2024. And this is the 3rd year in a row they've landed a top 10 recruit. And more importantly, it seems like their recruits are sticking and staying with Lawson as they did not have any losses through the transfer portal. And this leads me into LSU and Kim Mulkey. In her preseason press conference, she was talking about the importance of getting freshmen. It just cannot be all transfers because the freshmen that are coming in are the building block of your program. And she alluded to this saying,
but you got to always remember the program can't exist and sustain success if all you get every year are transfers. You got to keep getting those freshmen. The hard part is you just don't know every year when you step on the floor if you're going to have the same team that you had that finished the year. And that's what runs a lot of coaches out of the business. It's like you could used to, my freshman class, man, they're going to be good when they're juniors and they've got all this experience. It just doesn't work like that anymore. So whatever roster you have out there, you got to go to work right out of the gates.
And she is speaking from experience because they've already lost Kent and Velez from their number 1 recruiting class in 2023. But obviously they hit a home run with Michaela Williams. And they were looking to hit another home run with Aaliyah Chavez as she's the number 1 recruit, obviously. And they had made her final 6. And she had paid an unofficial visit to LSU over the summer. But then reports started coming out that LSU is no longer interested in recruiting her as the price of her NIL, they deem it too high, as in these articles it's reporting that she's seeking something over $1 million.
$1 million!
And one of the fascinating things is I'm trying to figure out what's at play here. This seems like it's leaked from the LSU side. I mean, I guess you could say that the Chavez camp, maybe they've leaked this story as well to try to drive up her NIL figure that she might get from other schools, but I don't know. I just think it's going to add to the pressure when she does sign to a school, what they will expect from her. Potentially a negative perception from fans, I suspect, is fans are hard on this. The unproven player making a lot of money. That's even for draft picks as well. That they're happy for coaches to be paid that have won. They're happy for players generally to be paid if they brought them championships or win them games. But the unproven player that gets a lot of money and then if it doesn't work out, get a lot of negative feedback. That's my worry for her if it doesn't work out. It definitely seems with her recruiting, Texas and Texas Tech are the front runners. And this seems based on Texas having a lot of money, obviously, as they're never short of NIL. And then the other one, Texas Tech, will they give the local hometown girl a big NIL just to keep her at home potentially? And with the success of Juju Watkins, is it more attractive to stay at home and build a program around your local area? I know that On3 has Texas Tech a 32.5% favorite versus Texas at 28.4% and landing Chavez, but I don't know how you put a percentage on that. Now with LSU, could it just simply be a situation where they just did not think the price was worth it, as they've already got some other guards committed to them? So they have the number 11 guard in the 2025 class, Divine Burridge, who is 5'10", and then they have Bella Hines, the number 29 recruit, who's also a 5'9" guard. So I wonder if they just thought, do we want to really allocate $1 million of our NIL money to another 5'11" guard? Even though she is number 1 in the recruiting class, maybe our money is better spent elsewhere. And that elsewhere would be on one of the 6 remaining players in the top 15 of the 2025 class. So, as mentioned, Aaliyah Chavez, she's one. The other uncommitted recruits include Agot McKeer, who's number 4, number 6, Grace Knox, number 12, Zakiya Johnson, number 13, Denia Prawl, and number 15, Jalea Davis. And of those remaining 6, LSU is still on the list for Grace Knox, who's a 6'2 forward. The other teams on Knox's list include Tennessee, Southern Cal, and Texas. Man, Texas could have a big recruiting class if they land these. But same thing, whoever gets these final 6 players could really make a late run to win the recruiting class. The other player that Louisville's in the mix for is Zakiya Johnson, who is a 6-foot guard. Now, Louisville, Kentucky, Southern Cal, and Notre Dame are all still in the mix for her, as well as South Carolina. And that's the interesting thing. South Carolina has not signed anybody yet, but underestimate Dawn Staley at your own peril. Is they're still in the mix for number 1, Chavez, number 4, McKeer, number 12, Johnson, and number 13, Prawl. So they could make a late run and still win the class, and they've got space on their rosters. They only have 9 players returning on their 25-26 roster. With Agot McKeer, she is down to 6. So that, like I said, South Carolina, but there's UConn, Duke, Michigan State, UNC, and Kentucky. Prawl, who is a 6'1" wing like McKeer, she is down to 8 schools. So, as I mentioned before, South Carolina, but also Kentucky, Louisville, Notre Dame, Baylor, Florida, Tennessee, and UConn. It should also be noted that McKeer and Prawl are from Canada, so there's not an NIL tied to those recruits, as they cannot receive NIL money because they're international. And with international recruits, I wonder if it's undervalued, almost like Moneyball, as you don't have the headache of NIL. In addition, you have more film on them playing against better players in international competition. UConn certainly does not mind taking a chance on international players, as I mentioned in the latest video I did on Blanca Quiones. And not surprising, that led to the comments, UConn is only interested in international players as that's all they can recruit, which is a bit ridiculous, seeing that in 21 they had the number 2 class, 22 the number 4 class, 23 the number 4 class, and the last class in 24 was number 2 as well. As I said in that video, I just think UConn likes the international players, as they tend to have a very professional approach, and generally their games are well-rounded versus what you get from kids that predominantly play AAU. Now, that is a bit of a generalization, but I do agree with the idea that the number a kid has by their name is not as important as how they might fit into your program. And oftentimes you don't know how that kid's going to fit into your program until they actually arrive and start integrating with the other kids and attending practice. So back to UConn in 2021, their class looked really, really good. It was number 2, like I said earlier. And on paper, it was loaded with AZ Fudd, Caroline Descharme, Amari DeBerry, and Saylor Poffenbarger. And unfortunately, it just has not worked out. So Fudd and Descharme have been hindered by injuries, and then DeBerry and Poffenbarger, they have transferred on to Maryland. So taking it back full circle, Aaliyah Chavez wanting $1 million, she might be worth it, but you never know. And I don't blame Kim Mulkey for saying, nope, we'll take a pass on that, as we have enough guards already, and let's see if we can get Grace Knox, who gives us a bit more size, and potentially Zakiya Johnson, although I think she'll stay local with Louisville or Kentucky. The last thing, I don't see South Carolina getting Chavez either. I just don't see them paying that much in NIL to bring her in. I do think that they might get McKeer and Prawl. I think those are more Dawn Staley type players. And it just feels like South Carolina will make a late push and get more players. Now it's over to you. Your comments, your thoughts. Would you pay Chavez $1 million to come to your school? Of course you would if it wasn't your money, but do you think your school should pay $1 million to get Chavez? And where do you see her going? Do you see her going to Texas Tech, Texas, or any of the other schools that she has interest in? I didn't even mention UCLA. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day.